winter concert. I should be there, but I'm here.
Is it a school concert?
Yeah, my daughter is playing the flute. She's a flautist.
My 95-year-old mother was a flautist in the orchestra and had flutes from all over the world.
Oh, wow.
She has quite a collection.
Yeah, so that's my daughter's. She hasn't practiced. I actually forgot that she was taking the flute. I haven't heard the flute in the house for probably 12 months, but apparently she's still playing it. All right, so good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the December 20th, 2023 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. In attendance are myself, Chairman David Gerstenhaber, Vice Chair Donna D., and Supervisors Don Dowling, Jim Johnson, and Stefan Torres. Also in attendance are Township Solicitor Guy Donatelli, Township Operations Manager Jeff Eastburn, and Township Controller and Office Manager Melissa Ortega, and there are 3 members of the public in attendance. So can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, thank you, everybody. So now I'd like to open the floor to public comment. Public comment may include anything related to tonight's agenda items. Commenters must state their name, whether they are a resident of the township or a non-resident taxpayer in the township. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be included in the official minutes. Do we have any public comment?
There we go. I just want to clarify something that has been coming up a lot online about the questionnaire for submitting questions for the town hall. People keep coming back to me insisting that this is a way for everyone to shut them out from being able to speak at the actual town hall meeting. So they don't want to submit their questions for fear that they won't be able to speak at the town hall. I just want to clarify there is public comment at the town hall. People will be able to speak. And all this, I just want to make sure that everybody else does. So they're also asking if it will be streamed through Zoom. We do have all of that, right? And then there's a question about rules for questions and comments and how long they'll have to speak.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight when we go over the agenda items, but I think we're going to hold it to a similar rule that we do for township meetings, which is 2 to 3 minutes per person. We don't need to have, 5, 6, 10 minutes of comments. It's really ask your question or make your statement, and that's sufficient. Again, we only have so much time.
Right. No, I know.
And again, just to echo what you're saying, this town hall meeting is about having the township's voices heard. The reason that we want these questions submitted ahead of time isn't to shut anyone out. It's really to open up the floor and get those common questions answered to make sure that those are asked. And then once those are done, we will open to the floor and have people make comments and questions that are not addressed. So thank you very much. And I appreciate all of your efforts on this. I know it's a tremendous amount of energy and work. So thank you.
All right, so we're going to move on to the approval of minutes. And so the November 6th, 2023 Board of Supervisor workshop meeting minutes. So I make a motion that the board approve the November 6th, 2023 Board of Supervisor workshop meeting minutes. Can I have a second for that? All right, thanks, Jim. Any comments? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, so it looks like we're 5-0 approved. Great, thanks. So then we're going to look at the November 15th Board of Supervisor meeting minutes. I make a motion that the board approve the November 15th, 2023 Board of Supervisor meeting minutes. May I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, Dave. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thanks. Okay.
Items. All right, so now we're on to our November Treasurer's Report. This is a comprehensive monthly report of the township's financials for the month of November 2023 year to date. Melissa, can you walk us through?
Sure. The November 2023 Treasurer's Report includes the following disbursements. The general fund with disbursements and transfers of $112,324.38. The Park and Recreation Fund with disbursements of $2,189.12. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $5,608.46. The Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements of $0. Emergency Services Fund with disbursements of $0. The Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80. Leaving a balance in all funds of $2,132,306.14.
All right, thank you, Melissa.
You're welcome.
So I make a motion that the board approve the November 2023 Treasurer's Report as presented by Melissa Ortega. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I'll give that one to Stefan. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. All right, Jim.
Okay. The zoning officer's report, this report was. Sorry, zoning officer's report was compiled by the zoning officer and includes number of permits processed for the month of November. In the month of November 2023, 5 permits were issued, $1,222.50 in permit fees were collected, $0 in miscellaneous fees, and $0 in recreations, open space, and impact fees were collected. 15 inspections were performed. That's it. Steph.
Thank you. Just may I ask a question on that, maybe for our solicitor, or does that come out later, on a solicitor's update? But with regards to the December 15th update on the, 7 Oak Tree, the court will provide an update to the solicitor after the defendant's next hearing on December 15th. Or do we wait on that?
No, I'm happy to report. It's all public record in any event. So just by way of background, this involves a piece of property that has some zoning violations by way of animals, basically. And the property is under control of one spouse, and the other spouse was looking to gain control of the property so that that spouse could remediate it. The court awarded possession of the home to Mr. Janjiti, and he has not only agreed to move into that house and remediate the situation, but he's also agreed to satisfy the judgment against the township through the payment of 8 equal monthly payments. I contacted Mr. Eastburn, agreed to that, and the payments will begin the beginning of next year. Also, as you're aware, we have a nuisance complaint that we've filed that has been served. I was asked if the board would consider favorably withdrawing that nuisance complaint without prejudice. I think that's a smart thing to do because we don't need to litigate that. So I told Ms. Albrecht, who has been very reasonable throughout the whole process, she's opposing counsel, that I would make that recommendation to the board and get back to her. So at this point, we've secured an agreement for the payment of the money. It looks like the home has been awarded to Mr. Janjiti. My guess is that the goats and ducks and other poultry will not be there as soon as he effectuates that repossession. She has appellate rights, so we don't know where that will head. So it's all good. And that's about as complete an update as I can give. And if the board will give me the head nod, I will withdraw our nuisance complaint without prejudice, which means we can refile it if we ever think we have to.
With you until you said she has appellate rights. So should we wait till we find out what she does about an appeal before we withdraw the nuisance complaint?
That might be prudent. I'm not doing anything with it. So it's just sitting there. I've given opposing counsel an unlimited period of time to respond to it. So I just don't want to cause any, I just don't want to create a situation where some judge thinks he or she has to act and then we have to explain ourselves. So I'll follow up and I won't withdraw it. That's a good point. I'll follow up and see what Ms. Snyder is going to do. My guess is that those sorts of awards, even if they're appealed, tend to play themselves out in favor of the person who won in the first place. So, but that's, so I will consider myself having the approval to withdraw that complaint when the appeal period runs, so that we're secure there. Okay.
That's what I was.
All right. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, I want to take the opportunity to introduce Andrea Roberts, who's on the line here, to give a the Park Recreation Open Space report to us. Thank you.
Hello. December update from the Pro Board. First thing, at our meeting, we had a special presentation by Rachel Griffith from the Chester County Planning Commission on open space conservation. They came to us asking if they could help us kind of learn about open space preservation, what they could do in terms of helping us find funding if necessary for homeowners. And so it was a really interesting conversation. She said overall, she felt like Franklin Township has done a really nice job with land preservation, which was nice to hear. And she kind of just spoke to the tools that the township can use to help preserve in the future. She had some really great sources to help with funding if necessary. And so we're waiting for her to come back with a little bit more information, but we hope to have her back on in the future. And if we do, we'll ask if anyone wants, any of the board of supervisors want to join just to hear what she has to say. She was a wealth of knowledge. So that was a really a nice thing to have. We worked a little bit on the You Are Here maps for Crossan Park. We kind of just talking about style. We didn't get very far on it, so I don't have anything to present tonight, but we will continue and get back to you. Liam Kelly, a local Boy Scout, approached us several months ago about doing some trail signage over at Crossan Park. He has come back with a proposal. Mainly, it looks like he's created some trail signage over at Franklin Preserve. I'd like to show that to you if I am able to share my screen. Is that fine, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what he's proposed. It is, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit for everyone to see. So as you can see, the left side of the map this is Franklin Preserve over here. His legend shows using several different colors of trail markers. We don't have an image yet of what the trail signage would look like. It looks to us like he's going to be, it would indicate that each trail would get its own color. Our biggest concern is that if we are going to do trail signage at some point, hopefully in Crossan Park, that we can that we could replicate whatever he wants to build, and that also he's not used kind of all of like the primary or big colors in Franklin Preserve. So our suggestion was, kind of for some of the smaller loops, maybe, right, like if we're looking here, you see this red loop here, or the green loop up here, maybe, right, the sign maybe says connector or connector to parking lot or something like that. And so we've asked him to join us for our January meeting to review some of our comments. The one thing he would like to do is currently at the back of Crossan Park, you can see this yellow dot here. he'd like to build a new kiosk, which would show signage for the trail markers. And that was, I believe that is an FSA. It's an FSA, I guess, just I don't know what the right word is, sign or board, rather board. And I guess we would need approval from the FSA or just let them know that, you know, he has requested to change this, to update it, and see if that's okay.
Yeah, I think the in principle there, you know, having signage in Crossing Park's a good idea. And I think you touched on some of the concerns here, which is we need to have consistency across the whole park. So we might want to. What is his timeline? First of all, is it something that like is this imminent?
No, I think I think he plans for it to be a spring project. So we've got there's time for development.
Yeah. So here's just one comment is the map that you're showing isn't really accurate.
Correct.
And so like step one in my mind, and I guess I'll open it, like to hear what the other board members are. Step one is to get this map correct, right? So the first thing we do is get the map correct and the trail system correct, because a lot of those trails, particularly on the crossing side, are going to go, not a lot, but a number of them are going to go away, and they're getting moved or simplified. And then the trail map on the Franklin side, like the big switchbacks, those are going to be gone in the next couple of months. And so we're optimizing the trail system. So I guess my concern is, you know, this guy comes in and he puts in, and it's something we need, like 100%, we need these trail markers. But how do we manage this project? So I guess what we would need to do is all agree, here's the kind of markers we want, and then have him incorporate that into his project. Yeah, I guess if he's doing it in the spring, we might have some time to figure that out.
Yeah, and one of the things we were discussing when reviewing the changes to the "You Are Here" map, which I mentioned earlier, is that there are changes to the Franklin Crossing the trail system that need to happen, and so several of the pro board members are working on that. So we are working to update that, and because you're right, the map that he is, you know, kind of basing his plan off of is not entirely accurate, or it will not be accurate, you know, in the near future. So we are in the process of creating or modifying so that he has something to work off of.
Hi, Andrea, it's Jim. I have a statement and a question. The statement is, I don't usually like to speak for the FSA with things, but I think changing that trailhead sign is perfectly fine. As long as there's a little space on there for them to hang their hooks, we'll be fine. That's perfectly fine. The question I have though is, my assumption is that more people visit the Crossing Park sign, more residents go there. What was the pros reason for actually doing Franklin first? Or is this just what was brought to them by the Boy Scout? Like, why wouldn't you do Crossing first if that's more populated?
Sure, that's a great question, and I don't have a good answer for it. When he presented to us originally, he said he wanted to do trail signage at Crossing, and this is what we were presented with. So
He didn't realize it's Franklin, right?
I don't know. I think, and I may be speaking incorrectly, but for some reason, I believe at some point I heard that he was, you know, he was into biking. And so I feel like he may use the Franklin Preserve side more, which is why he focused on that. I don't, that may be inaccurate, but I feel like that was a conversation we had at some point. And so,
yeah, I
so
think
that might be why
he's a
he
biker.
focused on that.
Yeah, if he's a biker, he probably just bikes in there.
I would throw out that would be a good place to start, because we're done with it.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not doing anything else in there. So once we fix up those switchbacks, that would be a good starting point, because we're done. It's
Right.
just that
There's
that's on the
one
right.
other little trail going in there too. right? From
Oh,
the,
yeah, yeah, that
from the
little-
yellow, like along that
Yeah,
edge
there's a one
and,
little
and looping
connector.
around. So we'll talk to you guys about that too. Mark knows, or Matt, I'm sorry, Matt Thompson knows.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. The other thing is we were going to ask him if he could, if he was going to do all this, if he would be willing to build 2 more kiosks. I think we decided that 3 kiosks in total might be helpful. So one where he has back here one at the top of Franklin Preserve, and I believe the other was discussed maybe by this back parking lot, but I honestly don't remember where the third was.
Yeah, right where we
was
hit that
suggested.
intersection. That's where we were.
So
That
we
makes
had
a lot of
talked about
sense,
asking
'cause
him if he would do 3.
I think I know. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think that makes, there's 3 locations where people usually enter into those trail systems. So that would make sense.
So
But
we'll
yeah, I
give you
think
updates on
you're
that. Again, sorry, I think hopefully he joins us for that January meeting and we can make some good progress with him.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, let's talk about that, just because we want to make sure that everything's consistent. So
Yeah, but somewhere it comes back here too, because we have to
Yes.
give the okay. So I think it's good that the pro works with him, he gets his plan together, and we know that the pro's behind it, and then he brings it to the board. And then we can have our questions and answers and hopefully give him that approval.
Perfect.
Great.
Andrew, is this an Eagle Scout project? Question 1 and question 2. Since he's doing the area that he would most be interested in, being a biker, what assurances or what is plan B if he only does Franklin Preserve and we don't get Cross and Park done under his work?
Yeah, it is an Eagle Scout project. So answer your first question. Second question is, I think there are always, it seems to me there are constantly Eagle Scouts asking for project ideas. And so we would, if Franklin Preserve was done, if there was some sort of precedent set or design set, then hopefully if another Eagle Scout came to us and said, I'm looking for a project, we would be able to direct them to the Cross and Park signage project. Alternately, I guess it's something the pro board could take on, but I don't think that we feel like that's necessary. I think it seems like we should be able to find an Eagle Scout that would be willing to help with that, but I'm not sure that I can give any assurances that we have somebody that could do that presently.
it's probably a good idea then when we approach this project is we think of it in terms of the master plan, right? Here's the plan for Franklin and Crossan, right? Here's the master trail plan. And then Liam's Eagle Scout project is this piece of that plan. And then we can open it up to an Eagle Scout or figure it out for another one. The good news about these kinds of signs is they're pretty cheap. It's usually just a pole with a color dot on it. So it's depending on how fancy he wants to get, but I think we could probably handle that.
Tell him he gets half an eagle, and then when he finishes.
That's right.
crossing, he
That's
gets
right.
the whole eagle.
He gets the other half. Okay, good. Anyone else on that?
Nope, I think we're good.
Okay, good. Next up is the oak trees over at Goodwin. I don't have an update on that right now. List of 2024 initiatives. We've discussed this. Trail maintenance is something we want to work on next year, coming up with a plan. What is trail maintenance? What's something we need to go to the Board of Supervisors to review? What's something that, we can just kind of reach out to volunteers to help us with if necessary. So putting some sort of, I think, packet together that we can present and have as a little bit of a roadmap for future work in the park and the preserves, so that we can efficiently do maintenance or, clear trees or so forth in the future.
So on that, one of the things, again, said we're going to be talking about our budget in a few minutes here. A major line item in the budget is mowing. And so when you start looking through the trail maintenance plan, keep an eye out for opportunities where there are segments that might be able to be easily mowed or reasonably mowed by volunteers. And maybe we can start setting up days to have volunteers mow certain aspects of the trails. I know that it's not something like, we're not going to have someone mow Crossan Park, but there might be trail segments that we can get volunteers to do and kind of help us save some money on that mowing, because that mowing line item is pretty big.
Okay.
So just something to think about as you're thinking about trail maintenance.
Okay, that's good to know.
Thanks, Andrea.
Yeah, thank you. Next item is a path at Crossan Park. I think we had talked about meeting with the Board of Supervisors there at some point to walk that path, and we weren't quite ready yet. The leaves hadn't finished falling, and so hopefully we can all get to that soon. Next up on the list is at Bamshire, one of the Pro Board member Bob Magnus, he would like to build a raised flower bed by the new signage at Bamshire. We discussed this in detail, but Bob wasn't at our meeting, and so I think we need to have more discussion about that, what exactly he wants to do, where he wants it to be. Is it something that, he builds, or, the Pro Board builds with, leftover material, materials from another project, or I don't really have any details on that yet. Our biggest concern as a Pro Board was that it's not something that takes up any sort of parking space. It's not something that needs to be maintained on a regular basis, and so we really need a little more information from Bob on that. But that's something that he wanted to add to the 2024 list, and so we'll dig into that a little bit. The last item was playground equipment at Crossan Park. Pro Board member Paul Overton, I think, has been working on this for a little while. We know there's not really a budget for new playground equipment, but he had some ideas, and I think he had looked into some grants, and so it's just something he wants to develop, but no concrete plan in place yet for that. As for new business, we discussed the issue of the town hall meeting at for the Big Elk Creek State Park. Just general discussion, nothing specific to review. Next line item on new business was that Bamshire raised garden bed that I just mentioned. After that, one thing Paul Overton discussed was, and I think he brought up at the last meeting, is that we rented or we borrowed a trail clearing machine from the trail spinners, and upon returning that equipment, they asked for a donation. At some point, I think, and I was not around for this, the Board of Supervisors did approve a $400 budget for renting this equipment. Paul would like, if possible, in good faith, to give them a donation for allowing us to use their equipment, knowing that in the future we're definitely going to need it. And in his mind, he has not been able to find it anywhere else, and he feels like we're going to need to borrow from them again.
Well, it's not really borrowing, is it? It's renting for $400.
It was, and I think that's the question. Are they just this one time maybe asking for a donation, and then and I think the way they went about asking for the money was backwards, obviously, but so I think it puts us in a weird position because I guess it did take quite some time to find the proper machine to do what he needed to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you articulated that perfectly. It was backwards, right? Here, we're going to donate this equipment. This is a great project. Oh, now that the project's over, we want $400. So it's there's two sides to it. Is $400 a huge amount of money? No. But I think the way they went about it was a little, I don't know if underhanded is probably too strong of a word, but it just seems a little bit backwards. They should have just said, hey, if you want to rent the equipment, it's $400. So, we had talked a little bit about this off and on, and there is, I think there's still money left in the pro budget for this year. And if the board approves, if you take it from that, then we can take it from that. But I have to get approval from the board for that. To your point, I think if they want donations or they want to rent their equipment, they should just be upfront about it and say it's going to cost $400. I think the board would have not had too much of an issue doing that. Like I said, it's not a lot of money considering the work you get done. So,
But we do want to clarify, we never approved it. So we didn't approve money. We approved the project. There was never an approval of $400 for, because it was presented to us as that it was free, or they were being kind to us and allowing us to use the equipment. So it is, I just want to be clear, there was no money ever stated. It was more about, this is a great opportunity because they have this equipment, that everybody has this kind of equipment, and they're giving it to us free of charge. So, just want to be clear with that.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Andrea,
I'm sorry, I'm not sure that I was around when that initial request for money was, whenever that happened. I think from my understanding, and again, I could be wrong, that the $400 approval or discussion, whatever it was, happened earlier in the year. It did not happen. And I know it didn't happen at the same time as when you guys went and looked at the trails and approved like that, what was specifically happening at the project.
yeah, for clarity for you, I know you weren't around, but this has always been presented to us as, for a better part of a year, as we want to do this, but we're waiting to get this equipment donated at the right time, the right place. And then all of a sudden it came to us and it was like the right time. We went out there, we looked at it, and everything was a go. The $400 donation request only came to us at the last meeting. That's the first time I ever heard of it. I don't know if anybody else heard of it before that, but
Same.
yeah. But so just so you're clear, that never came up. The dollars never came up until last meeting. So, that's all I want to say.
yeah. So again, I think the point here is, the question is, do we approve using the pro, taking money out of the pro budget, the $400 to donate?
One weird question, do we need to approve it, or can the pro spend their money?
No, it's our budget.
It's our budget.
Okay.
Yeah, it's our money.
I shared thoughts previously on the subject matter. If this was, I'm not in favor of making a donation out of the general fund for this. I am in favor if the pro wants to use the $400 out of their budget for this year. But going forward, not being a board member going forward, but I would hope that there'd be, and I think Andrea would agree, just further clarity on this. Is it $400 per use? Is it?
Yeah.
And if so, how much is there a better equipment or something? I mean,
Well,
that's expensive.
So the first comment is, as Andrew pointed out, they kind of put us in a bad situation, right? It was very awkward, a very awkward situation. The second is this is rare equipment. So this is why it took so long to get, we were talking about it for a year. It's because the equipment doesn't really exist to rent. It's really hard to find. And trail spinners actually bought their equipment because they couldn't find it. They couldn't find it to rent. So they ended up buying it. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm not.
It's a machine. It's thousands of dollars.
Well, I'm just saying a payback on, if you use the machine 8 times, it pays for itself. I mean,
I don't know. But I think that moving forward, maybe we got to talk to Paul and say, hey, is it $400? Right? Do it $400 every time you want to use it, which is that's probably fine. We have to talk to the board, and the board will discuss it per use. But yeah, it was just kind of a surprise that it popped up. All right. Do we need to talk about this anymore?
Well, I'm not in favor of it. I just think it's too twisted. I think it rewards bad behavior it just feels so wrong to me to deal with a group like this. It's just wrong. If you want money for it, you tell me up front, and you don't call it a donation.
Yeah.
It just feels totally wrong to me. The thing that I could support, and this may sound really nitpicky, I'd give them $200 as a donation, but not where'd the number 400 come from? How do you say I want $400 as a donation? Like, is it 400? It just seems so wrong to me. But I mean, I'm not gonna stand in anybody's way. There's enough of you to make it happen, but it just feels wrong to me.
In my opinion, you don't go to a board for a year telling them that you're waiting for something for free and then tell them that you want a donation for $400 after the fact. I think the next time we use it, we ask them how much it will cost and we approve it then when we need it. I don't think I would be in favor of approving this one.
I would like just to call to verify the company, whether it's an invoice or it's a donation or what am I paying? What am I gonna back up for an auditor? This is right.
It may also implicate the bidding statutes and could be construed, although I am sure that's not the intention, being used to avoid or evade that obligation.
Because you call a donation and you don't debate it.
So I'm adding some legal seasoning to the mix.
Yeah, so I guess the question would be the equipment. So the work was done by a volunteer, right? The equipment was rented. But what you're saying is if we're renting equipment and having if the township's renting equipment and having volunteers do the work, that could be seen as avoiding the bid process.
Someone could make that to Ms. Ortega's point, an auditor or another enforcement arm could see it that way if they were looking through a particular lens.
Okay, well, we'll need to have to talk about this kind of item in the future and whether or not we do this. All right, so what are we doing with this $400? Are we gonna let the pro
Yeah, see what Dawn, you have.
Don, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I was worried that we didn't rent it. We didn't rent, so it's not a rental and a volunteer. So it's a real iffy situation. I don't have a good feeling about it either. I don't know what Paul promised them or what they were promised. And the worry is, would we be able to use it again? We would say to them, if we want to use it again, we would pay to use it. How much is it? This situation seems real iffy. I agree more with Donna because it just seems so iffy to me. And it's a sticky quagmire.
My understanding is that Paul was under the assumption they had said that they were letting him borrow the equipment for free. Upon returning, they said, would you be willing to give us a donation for use of the machine? I think that they're a small group and they all just chipped in for the machinery. And so they're thinking, we need there's maintenance on it. I honestly don't know where the $400 amount came from. That might be a more specific question for Paul. I don't have that answer. That was the number that was, discussed in the pro board meeting. But I don't think it was, I think it was, they just went about it the wrong way. And
I agree. So I think, Andrea, from hearing the board, the answer is no. I think
I hate to shift on you, but if they were coming back saying, could you give us a donation for the use of the machine? And that's the way they put it. That to me is a different lens, because that means we determine the amount, they didn't say, give me $400, because then it sounds like it's that amount's already determined. If they said, please consider a donation for the maintenance, fine, then present it to us as that, and we could consider a donation towards the maintenance, but we determine the amount. It's not given to us. It just seems that feels different.
Maybe we should talk to the trail spinners.
Yeah, maybe we should. Yeah,
maybe we should just talk to them.
I agree with
it
that.
sounds to me like there is some miscommunication happening, and I don't really know how the conversation went. Again, it was, the way Paul phrased it was that he brought it back, and they said, could you? And
Andrea, could you do us a favor? Find out who we should talk to in the trail spinners, and just have a conversation with them directly.
Sure.
And
And
yeah.
I'd be very thankful. I would
Okay,
say
and
thank
Melissa-
you for the, oh, you're gonna
Yeah.
do it, Liz? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
'cause-
great.
The thing is that this is where it's like, we're not ungrateful, right? This is like, it's just a weird situation. It's incredibly kind. It's very generous of them to donate this equipment. And it's really more about the process and how we as a board need to make decisions, right? And so, yeah, if you could help us with that and then send it over to Melissa, she can have a conversation about this.
Can I add just one other
Sure.
piece of advice? So the township code provides for items that you can appropriate for the purpose of doing a fire, ambulance, things of that nature. I don't see that. I'll take a deeper dive into it, but I don't think it's worth the cost of that because I don't think the code allows you to make an appropriation for a charitable purpose.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and
You could do it anyways.
I'm thinking if you came to me and said, what's the safest legal position to take? Most lawyers are legal cowards, at least solicitors are. I would say to you, let's read the code. Let's see what you can appropriate money for, to Ms. Ortega's point. And there's nothing in there about charitable donations,
Right.
as nice as they are. And it's not as if you're taking collections and having a bench and putting a bench somewhere so that people sit on it. That's different. This is an appropriation for the purpose of making a charitable contribution. And I'm questioning whether that's.
So this is an interesting conversation. I thought this would be a 15-minute, like, hey, do you want, this is a deeper dive than I thought. So what you're saying is, all right, here's scenario one. Trail Spinners comes to us and says, hey, we'd be happy to rent the equipment. And we issue a purchase order or whatever, pay for the equipment, and we have a volunteer use the equipment. Done.
Okay.
That's good.
Except for do we have to put it out a bid?
That's the question.
I don't like charitable donations from governmental entities. So
So the point would be, because now it's the texture of this is a charitable donation, it puts us in an awkward situation.
you could say, for example, you can make a charitable donation for public health, safety, and welfare, right?
Right.
So you could make a charitable donation to an entity that provides that sort of service and then say, here are the strings attached to that. You got to use it to level out trails on such a, you might be able to shoehorn that into the four corners of the code. It just seems like if you're working that hard to fit it into a lawful transaction, you probably shouldn't be doing it. I'm not saying
Gotcha.
mustn't, I'm saying shouldn't. I haven't thought about this before this discussion, but it just makes.
No, it's an interesting, yeah, it's just, it's a lot more complicated than I thought it would be, but it's, under your advice, you're saying we shouldn't be engaging in a charitable donation if it's.
Agreed. And yes, that would be my advice.
All right.
So.
Have we ever,
Go
have
ahead.
we ever made a donation to anything else?
I don't think so. The only time we do a donation, Don, is I don't know if we even call it a donation. We, like, for an Eagle Scout project, we pay for stuff, right? But we don't donate to organizations. So, all right. So I guess the answer is a lot simpler.
Or maybe it is we're not able to make a donation, but in the future, if we plan to use it again, we're more than happy to pay up front for the use. I don't know, maybe it's in that kind of situation.
Rental.
Yeah, we agree.
Or I guess upon conversation, I guess the other question, what if I know it wasn't previously approved, and if they gave us an invoice for use of their equipment at this, could we pay that?
So this year is probably not the right way to do it because it was donated equipment. Here's my suggestion to the board and Andrea. if you can send that information to the trail spinners and to Melissa or someone on the board, and we can talk to them and say, hey, look, we understand you asked for a charitable donation. As a township, we're not really in a position to do that. It's you know, and however, so we want to maintain this relationship. We can say, however, in the future, what we can do is rent this equipment from you. Right. And so while we can't do it this year, I'm sure there'll be an opportunity in the future to rent that equipment, and we will rent it on an official basis. But we can, as a township, start handing out charitable donations to organizations like you. Or however you'll say it, so whomever. Does that make sense, Andrea, to you?
Absolutely, sure.
Okay. Don, did you have a comment?
No, I agree. I just worried that it was too squirrely.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Andrea. Anything else on this?
Yes, I think the last kind of big item is there is we have the Keene Trail, and it recently the Keene Trail the Keene property was recently purchased. The new owner had the land. She had it. There's an easement on it. She had the boundary lines of her property. She had everything marked and found that the Keene Trail was placed in a small section outside of the easement. So I think Jeff and Paul Overton went out to visit her, to look at the trail, to look at kind of everything, and found that the neighboring property, it seems like, has been dumping debris. They had maybe construction done, dirt piles back at the back of their property, which was what they thought was their property, was actually the original Keene property. So when the trail was placed, the trail went around this debris, which means that it is, and nobody knew this, it was not placed in the easement, within the easement for a small section. So I believe that the township contacted the neighboring property that had been dumping debris. Since the township contacted that neighbor, the neighbor also had their property surveyed, and there is a dispute as to where the actual property line is. And so it gets a little bit more complicated. At this point, the pro's position is that that this is a bit of a neighbor dispute, and once they resolve that, then we can resolve the issue of the trail not being properly placed within the easement. Yeah, it's kind of complicated.
You got it right, though. I think you captured it well. So it's I think the Keene Trail was an established trail.
It was
even before,
it was an old road bed,
right? And the previous owners didn't really care that it was on their property. It was an established road trail. People used it forever and ever. The new owners are like, well, I want my property back, which rightfully so. And then now we've entered this sort of situation where they're fighting over the border. I don't know any more details about it now.
Dave, the one piece I read was that 2 surveys were done and they're conflicting.
Yeah, that's like 100% of the time.
Yeah. So we can't, I agree, Andrea, with you. Like, we don't do anything until they square away their debate.
Let the engineers, let the site engineers work out whatever they're going to work out. Let the neighbors figure it out. I mean, I guess the reason the new owner of the Keene property originally had her land surveyed, well, first, an initial mortgage survey when you first purchase the property, but she'd like to place a fence around her property. And so if she places a fence where on what she believes is her property, the Keene Trail goes through that. And so in order for her to place her fence properly, we would have to shift the trail. But that can't even happen until the neighbors until the 2 parties involved figure out, kind of whose land is whose, and then
Yeah.
we can go from there, I guess.
I'm not sure how big of it, I don't know exactly how big of a shift it would be, how expensive it would be and inconvenient it would be, but maybe this is a legal question as well. Was there ever anything signed possibly by the previous owner to allow the trail onto the property if he or she did not care and somebody presented them, if you don't care, would you mind signing this? And does that transfer in, those type of arrangements transfer when you transfer property ownership to somebody else?
So certain easements run with the land and certain easements don't. So I'd have to look at the underlying terms of the transfer, whether it's contained in a deed. Is it I forget all the law school terms for these easements. Was it a license? In other words, just some oral representation that someone might use a piece of property for this purpose. Licenses are revocable at will. So it's a great question. I'm 36 years out of law school. But I would conclude that would be answered through some document of record. If
We don't know if one exists.
yeah,
right?
we'd have no idea.
That the landowner should be able to produce something like that.
I would think, and it would need, I don't think it could be construed against the township necessarily in any way. I would take that position.
Yeah.
And we don't decide private property. I would recommend that this board would not decide a private property right.
Yeah, I mean, there's two pieces of private property. In between those pieces of property is a trail easement. And so right now it's not the whether or not there's a trail easement there isn't in dispute. It's just where is that trail easement is what the question is. And so it's interesting because I think, my brief history here in the township, there always seems to be conflicting border disputes on people's properties, and it's and so I think one of the zoning officer had mentioned that it's usually defers to the oldest document that has, the oldest verified document of the border is what usually you go with, but I don't know if that's always the case.
It depends how the easement's crafted. I mean, some utility easements just say we have an easement to get from this general location to that general location.
Yeah.
And there's no meets or bounds description. If someone says we're going to put a trail to get us from the big rock to the big tree, there may not necessarily be a meets and bounds description. And then, we have to sort of hold hands and get to a resolution.
But I think the point that you did make was that the township really can't get involved in this situation. It's between two private landowners. Right.
Just for the record, Stefan and I have never had an issue.
No.
That's all I've got for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Good update.
Thank you, Andrea.
I mean, I guess I can take it because I have it on my screen, this next one. Yeah, sure. All right. So the next item is really just a quick update on the Big Elk Creek Town Hall. So we've had a number of meetings, both with staff and with some of the stakeholders that are going to be present at the town hall meeting on the 10th. Let me just get my screen up and I'll share it here. And so what I wanted to talk to the board about and at least put it on the record is what I'm planning on for an agenda. So it's a pretty basic agenda. My focus really is, number one, we're going to have a lot of people up on that stage, and it's really not going to be about us talking out to the townships. It's really about giving an opportunity for the townships to talk back at us and express their opinions. So again, call to order, pledge. I have one item here is the introduction and opening statements. I don't want to spend any more than 15 or 20 minutes on this. And I think it's just the 20 minutes is really just to get through these 12 people. Trying to minimize minimizing an opportunity for, just long-windedness.
Those 12 are on the stage.
Yeah, that's who's going to be on the stage. So it'll be Carolyn Comita, John Kane, the 3 Chester County Commissioners, Marion Moskowitz, Josh Maxwell, and Michelle Kickline. And then John Lawrence. We have 3 folks from the DCNR coming, John Hallis, Cindy Dunn, and Rob Campion. And then we have myself and Donna, and from Franklin, and then from Elk, we have Albert and Estes. So I put the chair and the vice chairs. One of the concerns from Elk was there's 5 of us and 3 of them, and they didn't want. And I was like, I didn't want all 8 people on the stage anyway. It's way too many people. So it's still a ton of folks up there. So
we're talking 2 minutes. I mean, do they know that it's just 2 minutes they can be speaking?
yeah. So after we all agree that this is what we want to do,
Okay.
this is gonna get sent out to everybody on this list that this is what we're gonna do, and then there'll be a little bit of preamble to just say, hey, it's just we're gonna go right across the stage and just introduce yourself and who you are, and
Right.
and then there's this PA Department of Conservation and National Reefs. They're going to have a presentation that they want to give for 15 to 20 minutes. And I'm assuming that it's going to be the same one. I don't know what they're going to present. It's going to be something on their. It's probably a presentation on what they've already shown at the was it Lincoln University?
Yeah.
Again, 15, 20 minutes. So we're looking at a total of 30 to 40 minutes. And then we've got 7 to 10, 7 to 9, 7 to 10. After that, I have the question and answers at 45 minutes, but that's
We'll go.
We'll go until time. And that's when we'll start. I'll probably start with all of the questions that were submitted, and then open it up to public comment. And I'll make it clear, I'm going to go through these questions, combine them, because there's going to be a lot of the same ones. And then once we go through those, we'll just open it up to the floor and have people, and then limit that to 2 to 3 minutes.
So I see you shaking your head. Would you want the DCNR presentation to be shorter? Is like make them more succinct so we don't just.
This isn't for DCNR to present to us, it's for us to present to them.
Well, I think they probably want to do some baseline setting to say this is what they plan to do.
I know.
So
I don't think they need to be able to do like a whole nother slideshow.
Maybe shorten it down.
Here's my.
Not everybody in the audience might know their show already. Right?
Yeah, so they might, not everybody there might not, and I think it's also fair to give them an opportunity to present what they want to present. 1, they may have changed their tune. 2, if they double down, then they're going to have to answer some tough questions. So I think it's only fair to say, hey, we're all here in the same room. Okay, DCNR, what do you have to say about this? Because look, they've heard it from Elk Township, they've heard it from us. There's write up in the Inquirer about them, WHY. Give them an opportunity to say something.
But the timing's important. No, maybe you make it 15, but they can't be on there for 30, 45 minutes.
No, I have it 15 to 20 minutes.
Like, we really mean that.
Oh, yeah.
One suggestion I have, since the Philadelphia Inquirer has written on it, we could either call the Philadelphia Inquirer and let them know, if not them. We have a now better relationship with the Southern Chester County Press.
They plan on being there. I think.
They will be there.
Okay. Oh, you can come up to the mic if you want.
Daily Local?
Well, they can't hear you.
I contacted the Daily Local.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So I was interviewed, and Diaz has been done all of this hard work. So yeah, they'll be there. Yeah. So I mean that's what I'm proposing. I think the 15 to 20 minutes is reasonable.
I would say 15, they'll go 20. You give them 20, they'll go 25.
All right, 15. 15 and 15.
Right, and it's 2 minutes.
And then it's, yeah, because the goal here, like, and this is, and I think I understand what you're saying, because, and I agree with you. It's really, and this is again why I don't want a whole long spiel about giving us a bunch of opportunity to just talk about ourselves and what we think. It's not the point. And so 15 minutes for introductions, you know, and then 15-minute presentation, and then it's just going to be answer questions. Because I think, again, the whole point of this is not to give anybody an out, right? So.
So how the questions will come, you'll have the questions and then you'll direct it or just kind of look to the people on the table, say who wants to take it on?
So Stacy's right now is collecting them, but everything that we get from online. And so what we're going to try to do beforehand is kind of, well, to answer your question, I'll try to direct it to the person who's probably most appropriate.
Okay.
And I think the person most appropriate is going to be somebody from the DCNR.
Right.
So most of them will all be, unless it says like, you know, I'm going to pick on John Lawrence. Why haven't you done that? Like if there's a specific name, but otherwise it'll probably be mostly.
But they may pipe in anyways, but I guess you'll just have to manage that.
Yeah. And I think the questions are, we have to play a little bit by ear and see how it goes. But I think, the question, I'll have to direct it to someone specific. And I guess that would be John is probably the person that John Hollis would be probably the person that we would direct it to.
Cindy
Dunn.
Cindy is,
She's the driving force behind the regulation.
those names should be reversed.
Oh, you want Cindy first?
and John Hollis.
So Cindy is the director of bureau.
No, Cindy is the chief there. So she's secretary of the Department of Natural Resources.
Okay, so let's write her full title here.
Yeah.
Yep, I asked Stacy to do that.
And then move her up.
Yep, I asked her to do
Yeah.
that.
So she needs to have her full title and then put them in the right order. Oh, that would be good.
Oh, yeah, I saw her. Yeah, so it's just your version. Here she is.
Oh, I have the wrong version of the agenda. Okay. Okay.
You want to?
Yeah. All right. So that makes a lot more sense. Okay. All right. So, but in general, we're okay with this agenda. So let me make some notes and I'll hand this back to Jeff. So it's 15 minutes for both introduction. So introductions and the presentation total 30 minutes. So 15 minutes of this is who we all are. And then 15 minutes for their presentation. And then we're going to just open it up for public comment. Oh, that's fine. Yeah. So we already talked to.
Should that be on the agenda?
So yeah, that's a good question. So Jeff already asked and said, "Hey, is that okay?" I'm fine with it. The question would be, so the petition is like a document. Here's the petition of the signed folks. Blah blah blah. I guess maybe you get to the mic first. I think let's do that. Let's make sure that you're at the mic first.
So after you go through the questions, then you hand it over to public
Introduce.
comments and then
You introduce?
Yeah, so I think that you'll be at the podium in the audience. Come over, you'll be the first person. Because I know you love the limelight. You'll be the first person. You've got this petition, and then you say, your name, and here's the petition. I'd like to present it to the DCNR. This is the petition that says yada yada yada, and then someone will take it from you. Probably, I think Stacy will be in the audience. Maybe she can manage the mic, or someone will be managing. We'll take it from you and say here, and then give it to John or Cindy.
Dave, is there an announcement to the audience that state your name and resident like we do here?
I think we'll probably do the same thing, like state your name and whether you're a resident or non.
Yeah.
With the petition, I'm such a cynic and I hate myself for that. I can see all of a sudden, what petition? We can't find the petition. Anyway, coming from DCNR at some point in the future. But my question would be, would she be making a presentation like, this is a petition signed. The title of the petition is that these people, 1,347 people signed this petition. and the headline of the petition is this, so at least, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's gonna do her thing.
Okay.
That's perfect. No, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing
Yeah, I
it.
mean,
So for sure, it's
Not
perfect.
20 minutes, so it's, you know, a few minutes, but just give a context of what this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that'll be appropriate. Yeah, so we'll make sure of that. That's a good, I'm glad you brought that up. So we'll have somebody manning the podium mic, and whoever that is will take the document from you and hand it to whoever's on the stage. Probably me or Cindy. Yep.
Someone gonna be taking notes or minutes?
It's going to be streamed, so we'll have.
Well, video, right.
Yeah. And yeah, so I don't know if we probably won't have written minutes unless maybe we can transcribe something digitally. Like you can have like, Google transcribe it or something, but I think we'll probably just keep it to the stream.
Could we, would it be possible, does it make sense or has been thought of, having a representative of the person who donated this land, recognizing he's 86 years old, that he may not be able to present, but have a representative say these were the intentions of the donation?
Go ahead. Yes, please.
So we are in contact with George Strawbridge. We are approaching him. He's away for the holiday. When he gets back, we're going to approach him about either attending the meeting through Zoom, because we don't expect him to show up in person. And if he won't attend through the Zoom, if he would do a video comment that we could play, or if he would write a statement that we could have a representative read for him. So that's already on my end addressed. I don't know if the township can also ask that, but
Put Jeff on the spot.
I don't have a direct connection to George Strawbridge, so from my talks with Antia, I truly feel she's on it. So
In terms of technology, would it be better just to get a written statement? I don't know how, I just don't want us caught up in 20 minutes trying to connect them by Zoom or having to do some kind of video. It might be easier to have a statement that someone can read.
We're gonna do.
we're gonna have Zoom available at the school.
Okay, again.
Yes,
So carpooling will be necessary. You're right.
Would we be able to spill over into like the high school parking lot? The old high school parking lot?
It's-
Cars are right here.
Our school, but maybe we can run,
across the street with the metal.
maybe there too, yeah.
Yeah, that might
It's a
be
little
a-
bit down the road here, but
That might be that might be an option, is right across the street.
yeah.
I have alerted state police to try and get some help that evening with traffic.
Yeah.
So my understanding is they'll be present.
Yeah, so it's a 400 person capacity.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Right. So it's important to carpool, folks. All right. Anything else we want to go over while we're talking about this?
I had heard from Commissioner Josh Maxwell this evening, so he just wanted me to reiterate that he's here for Franklin Township and its residents. So-
Great. Thank you.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was Jeff who originally came up with having a meeting between two townships. So if that's accurate, I think you deserve a praise for that.
Thank you. Go ahead, Antia, you.
No, I don't know. Eric Rowe should be sworn in by the time the meeting happens, so I'm not sure.
Oh, so Michelle might be gone, right? So he might not even show. So we have to figure out if he's coming. Eric is coming. Okay, so we gotta fix that. Michelle's not gonna be a commissioner when the meeting starts.
Okey dokey.
So I'll make a note here.
I believe you.
Well, it'll be the same for us, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be the new commissioner,
So Marion or Michelle, who's on?
Michelle. Marion and Josh are still on. Michelle's gone. And then, so each one of these things are gonna be 15 minutes. All right. All right. Good. Thank you. Good catch. All right. Well, that's all we have on that agenda item, I think. So the next item would be the Planning Commission report. There wasn't a meeting. And do we have Paul on for the Historic Commission?
He is not. He did submit a report and he said if the board had any questions
Okay,
at a later date, he would be available to
Okay.
answer them by email.
great. And last but not least, the Franklin Sportsman Association. Oh, sorry, Jim. I was just ding, 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 going right through these things.
So if we have the December report for the Franklin Sportsman Association, deer hunting's closed right now. It'll open up the day after Christmas to January 27th, and then it's done for the year. So we have 11 deer harvested so far. So we're doing a little better than last year. 7 doe, 4 buck, 3 from Banffshire, which was a step up. We had none from Banffshire last year. 2 from White Clay Crescent, 5 from Franklin, and 1 from Goodwin. The 2 crossover trails that were closed were reopened on 12/15. When we went in to do that, Bob McNamara and I went in to take the chains out. A large ash tree had fallen across the thing. So we went in and Bob had a chainsaw and I had a chainsaw. I went home and got one and we took them out and opened the trail up. So that ties in with the community service. As of December 10th, we're at 161 hours of community service. So not too bad. And just one note, just to keep you guys aware, the machine that went in to do the thing in Banffshire, the first hill, when you come in across the bridge and go down, that first hill is really, really slick. And that was before this big rain we had. I mean, we almost fell a couple times. I guess it just took the hard packed ground, it dug and it's wet. So I don't know. I think Bob, since he's on the pro, was going to mention something. I don't know, wood chips, something should probably be put on some of the fresh exposed dirt. So, and Andrea's on, maybe she, okay.
Andrea?
Yeah, we did talk about it. I think somebody was going to get some straw over there and put it on
Good.
that spot. So the pro board is on that.
Perfect. Because when I was carrying a saw, I almost slipped on it. I mean, it's like, but wet. And I don't think it's going to dry in the wintertime. So, but that's it. So.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Oh, one question. What's when hunting reopens after Christmas, what's allowed?
You can hunt with a firearm or a bow. If you haven't shot a buck yet and tagged it, you could hunt a buck or doe with a bow. With a gun, you can only shoot doe.
With a permit.
Yeah, if you have a permit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
So
Thank you.
I'm hoping we have a few more harvested before the end.
Excellent. All right. Thanks.
Thanks.
Great holiday.
Thanks. You too. I'm up, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say. 2024 budget adopted. So we talked about the budget? Okay, let's talk about the budget.
All right. So we approved the budget last month. We advertised it.
Yes.
And so now officially the budget has been adopted for 2024. Right. And so we need a motion to adopt. All right. There's no motion on the motion sheet.
Just make it up.
So I'll make it. You can make it up. Okay.
Sure. I make a motion that the board adopt the 2024 previously advertised budget and previously discussed as presented by Melissa Ortega. And it has been thoroughly discussed and reviewed and published.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Jim. All in favor, say aye. I'm sorry, any further discussion?
No.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, ayes have it, 5-0.
All right. Thank you, Stefan. Okay, so the next item is this land development extension for Nuri Hekarot. So he's he has some development plans to put in a garage, and he's been he wants to, it's a garage, a business. And his business has been delayed, so he's just asking to extend the development extension. It's a kind of a rote kind of decision, so there's not really much to do. There's nothing happening. He just wants to extend the land. He wants some more time for his land development. So I will just read this out. I make a motion that the board approve Nuri Hekarot's 12/1/23 request letter that would extend the review clock of his subdivision plan until June 30th, 2024. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Donna. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Okay, next is the solicitor's report from Guy Donatelli.
Good evening. The first item is the Comcast franchise agreement renewal addendum letter. We have a renewal addendum letter dated November 16th, 2023. You'll recall that there was an automatic renewal provision in the cable franchise agreement. And this November 16th, 2023 Comcast letter recognizes that the franchise agreement has reset. So I'm going to, and it's my view that it resets automatically. It's an auto renew, and that the board really need not take any action. However, what I'm going to recommend is calling another audible motion, and I'm going to ask that the board consider this as an appropriate motion. Move to recognize that the automatic one-time renewal provision resets the franchise expiration date to November 18th, 2028. So if someone were to make that motion by saying what Guy said, and then there'd be a second and discussion, I think that would be efficient.
All right.
Can I say what Guy said?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I will make a motion that the board approve the extension or the change to Comcast's franchise renewal agreement addendum to what Guy just said.
Resetting the franchise expiration date to November 18th, 2028?
Yes.
Okay.
And do I hear a second?
I'll say.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks, Stefan. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right.
The next item on the agenda is the Crown Castle Cell Tower extension. The hang-up on this particular extension is not the language of the extension letter. That's been approved by Crown Castle. Melissa R. and I confirmed that earlier in the month. Their issue is the property description that corresponds with the Crown Castle cell tower location. They had asked us to do that. We took a crack at it. They were dissatisfied with our efforts. And so Ryan Stradley, who is our counterpart at Crown Castle, is doing that in his office. And I had hoped to have that description tonight. But once that is prepared, we will staple that to the tower extension letter, present that to the board and say, now it's complete. But I don't have that this
So
evening.
what's the issue? I mean, how hard is it to? I mean, why are they getting so picky about this?
I could, let me bring up my email because I want to be accurate about it.
So was there not a description before or?
Well, there was, just let me bring it up. So we had suggested that perhaps the PCS site agreement be attached, and that PCS site agreement would have had an exhibit, would have had a property description to it. It didn't. So Melissa R. and I went into the documentation that we had, and it was, I'll say inadequate. So we have put that burden back on Crown Castle.
So they're always trying to maneuver something.
No, I think if Melissa R. had not said, where's the property description, we would have just moved ahead with it, but she wanted to make sure it was accurate, so.
You can see I'm not a very trusting soul.
No, again, these are fairly recent emails back and forth between Melissa, myself, Ryan and his new colleague or his colleague Kayla, who is putting the amendment in final form. So we have left that task to them.
And Guy, that'll come next month.
Yeah, yes. And final agenda item on the solicitor's report is the MS4 update. I reached out to Daryl St. Clair to see if I could get some insight from him primarily on whether the PennDOT plan had been approved by DEP. Didn't hear back from him. Reached out for my colleague Winnie Sebastian, who represents other similarly situated townships, and said, hey, have you heard anything? What have you heard? And she said, we've heard nothing. So I said, well, maybe you and I should give Daryl St. Clair a call together. And so that's what we're going to do. I offered my opinion, and I think I said this to Jeff, that you can't get anybody up there now. And I think it's basically closed out to the end of the year, is my assessment, not because anything's going poorly, but because nobody's putting their
Like you.
nose.
That's right. I mean, everyone's off. It's funny. I have to laugh. I mean, longtime fans of Franklin Township meetings will remember when we first started talking about this, there was a clock. We had to make a decision. We had to get this done, and we had 2 weeks to do it. And that was about a year ago. And we still.
More than that.
Oh, it just
It was longer than this.
probably before you were on, right?
It was the first item on my to-do list
When you
when
came.
I joined you.
That's how long ago. Yeah. So that's a,
And
yeah.
look at it, it's the way it goes, and this, until it all works its way out, our permit doesn't really start, so
Yeah.
just.
I'm not gonna I'm not complaining. I
Dude,
just
we're
think it's
doing the-
amusing.
we're doing
how
the
this
best
stuff
we can.
works.
I do want to make a comment on MS4. So if you remember at the last meeting, we talked about doing our due diligence and making sure that we talk to another engineer just to get a sense. So we have done that, Jeff and I, and Ron has some interesting ideas, and we're going to meet in January along with Andrew, bring the two together and see if that will give us some relief. So we're being,
Yeah.
we'll just see where that takes us.
Would that wouldn't include neighboring townships?
No, it was just, it's
for-
just a looking at our permit to make sure that we've done our due diligence and really looked at everything possible to make our burden a reasonable number.
Donna, with regards to that, I guess the one question I had, because I talked to Jeff about this, I don't know enough about it, and if Ron says that instead of 392,000, it's a number less than that. And I've heard estimates of what it could be less. I guess my question is, do we then present that to DEP and say, this number that you calculated is wrong, and this is the correct number, and are they going to care? And they're going to say, we don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I understand it is it's up to us to present what we think are the correct numbers, all right? So LTL did that, but what, if you can remember, Stefan, I don't know if you were on the board at the time, but we made we all agreed as a board, not this board, but another board, that we would take out the agriculture land. And so when that permit was presented, DEP said, no, this is not acceptable. So it's in my opinion, it's up to us to go back again and say, okay, based on the fact that you want the agricultural land in here, these are our calculation based on this map and based on these assumptions. Do you agree? Do you agree with us? So DEP didn't give us a number. It's up to us to say, this is what we think is the right number. The last time we went in, they said, no, we disagree because you shouldn't be taking out the agricultural land. Now I think we got to come back with a different proposal. And that's kind of what we're working at on. The way I understand it, and we need to have some more conversations. We'll do that with Ron and Andrew. Andrew took, there's a number that DEP gives you. They say, okay, here's all your land in Franklin Township. And based on that calculation of X number of pounds per whatever area, it's going to be this number. That's without any adjustments. And that's the number that it looks like that's what Andrew's been using. Ron is making the suggestion that no, based on these rules, you can make adjustments. And based on these adjustments, I come up with this number. So now what we want to do is get both parties together and say, okay, let's have this conversation. And then depending on what we agree, I'm hoping it gets to be lower. It's not going to get higher because Andrew's already at the max. Okay. Whatever that number is low, then we take that into DEP and see if they agree with us. But our job right now is to take some of Ron's assumptions based on some work that he's done in other townships and talk to Andrew about it. Now, I thought you were going to go another place. Depending on what comes out of this, we may need to come back and decide whether we want to stick with an arrow, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. So, but I think we have to figure out what it is, where we're at. What is there a difference? How much of it, and then we come back and we make a decision.
No, I think that's great because I mean, I kind of brought up an idea a few months back because this is huge. I mean, and yeah, and and the other question I might have is, if we're a little bit behind time-wise vis-a-vis other townships, I'm kind of wondering, like, has Ron Reagan been able to do this for other townships, submit the paperwork on their behalf and get approvals? So that's good. Okay. So his approach is a good approach by excluding certain acreage of land for whatever reason, agriculture, whatever it is. And it's been approved by at least the DP for one. So as my friend might say, precedent has been set.
Well, wait.
Now
it's been approved?
Yeah, so
Or
he
it's
has
been
one,
submitted?
so he's had several submitted with this and one approved.
Oh, okay.
But it's not that they've been rejected, it's just that it's going through the.
Yeah.
Right,
the
and
process.
those others were.
Thing that he's,
One's approved.
yeah, the thing that he's working on is not getting rid of the agricultural land, but with the assumption, it is in the rules that if the land does not drain into an MS4 body of water, it should not be included into the calculations. And that's what he's working on.
And right now, the assumption we're operating on is every piece of land that Franklin Township has drains into a body of water. So we're trying to change that.
Even residential, like
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm saying, like like I have a dry well, he has we have dry wells, they don't drain.
Yeah.
Anything that we've developed drains into.
So the way our responsibility has been calculated was the entire landmass of Franklin Township is in these two watersheds.
Right. And
Therefore, all that land drains into those two watersheds.
Okay.
Look at it this way. So, but we don't know that yet,
We need to. have
but there's a
conversation.
potential for an upside.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, that's.
Absolutely. Before I open up to public comment, I do want to just make a special comment to Stefan Torres. This is Stefan's last meeting as supervisor. We could not convince him to join us for another 6 years. or 2 years, I suppose. You've been a fantastic supervisor. It's been a pleasure working with you. Every meeting you bring something to think about, and you have a lot of really good comments. So I appreciate the time that you were on the board, and thank you for serving.
And we expect you to help with the fall festival again. We're not letting you get away.
Oh, thank you, everybody. It's been a lot of good people here, and the 6 years I served from 14 through 19 was a lot of fun. But this board, especially, I don't care what political party anyone is, we all get along really well. And this is a good board, good leadership. The township staff is a lot different than it was, and it's been a pleasure. And we're in good hands here going forward.
Thanks again, Stefan.
Thank you.
Okay, well, with that, I open it up for our second public comment. This comment can include anything any attendees may want to share. And again, commenters must state their name, whether they are a township resident or a taxpayer of the township. Do we have any further public comment? All right, not hearing any. I will make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting at 8:32 p.m. Can I have a second? And thank you, Stefan. Any discussion? No? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Yes, happy holidays. See you all next year.